welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving into the absolutely crucial, deeply symbiotic, and honestly sometimes incredibly dangerous relationship between artificial intelligence and data. Look, if you are building, buying, or just using AI in your organization right now, understanding this connection is completely non-negotiable. But before we map out our route today, I want you to stop and ask yourself something kind of provocative. Is your AI training on illegal data? No, seriously, the reality of AI sourcing might actually shock you. A lot of organizations just assume that if an AI can do something, well, it must have been built legally, right? But the truth is far, far murkier. It really boils down to this one simple truth. AI systems are only as good as the data they were trained on. Brilliant, cutting-edge algorithms are completely at the mercy of the raw data they consume. You know, there are better AI systems and there are worse AI systems, and it almost always comes down to the quality, the legality, and the structure of the data feeding them. Bad data isn't just some tiny technical glitch, it is a massive organizational liability. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to hit 5 key areas. First, the AI to data minefield. Second, demystifying data governance. Third, the wild west of data. Fourth, the power of real data. And finally, number 5, the confidentiality trap. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the AI data minefield, and how to navigate those hidden risks. The core problem we're facing here is that AI simply does not work without data. And that data comes with massive, heavy baggage. We're talking legal and privacy requirements. Think of it like building a massive skyscraper on an unchecked foundation. If you don't verify the soil, or in our case, the purpose of your processing and the actual lawfulness of your access, the whole structure is compromised. Whether you're building an AI system from scratch or you're simply adjusting an off-the-shelf system to better fit your company, ignoring these foundational requirements introduces severe vulnerabilities. Left unmanaged, these aren't just bugs, they result in massive legal compliance failures. Which brings us nicely to Section 2, demystifying data governance. This is essentially the shield for your AI. So what is the answer to all those foundational problems? It's data governance. Now, I know, on the surface, data governance sounds like a pretty simple concept. It's just managing your data, right? But in reality, executing it is a highly complex process. It involves rigorous, continuous considerations during the data collection phase, the validation phase, and the testing phase. Plus, massive regulatory frameworks, like the EU's AI Act, are stepping in right now. They are transforming what used to just be polite industry best practices into strict legal obligations that carry incredibly heavy fines. So this governance framework isn't just paperwork. It is literally your ultimate organizational shield. This shield is basically built from 4 crucial compliance buckets. First up, privacy. Think GDPR and other global privacy laws. Second, confidentiality, ensuring that what is confidential to your organization actually remains confidential even when you're using AI. Third is transparency, just being totally clear about how you use data. And fourth, accuracy and quality. And here is the real kicker. This is not a one-time exercise. You need to monitor these continuously across development, deployment, and ongoing training. Thankfully, you don't have to guess how to do this. International standardization bodies have mapped out really rigorous standards to help you safely navigate these specific buckets. This includes organizations like Sinelec, alongside global bodies like ISO and IEC. Okay, moving on to Section 3, the wild west of data and those incredibly tricky sourcing risks. Listen, we need to debunk a massive misconception right out of the gate. Publicly available absolutely does not equal free to use. Just because data is scraped from the public internet does not mean you have the legal right or the license to use it. There is a staggering amount of copyright-protected material out there. In fact, there are datasets containing illegal books that have allegedly been used to train some of the generative AI systems we all interact with daily. If an AI provider tells you they just use publicly available data, you really need to poke around a bit more, because publicly available does not mean legal. When we actually break down exactly where this data comes from, the hidden risks just multiply. Web scraping carries the super obvious threat of copyright infringement and pulling in illegal content. But then you have these in-the-wild datasets. These are the ones found on public databases like OpenML. Because these are often published without any rigorous testing, downloading them can inject bugs, viruses, or even severe geographical biases straight into your systems. If you're going to use free open source data, you absolutely must have an expert verify it first. And finally, we have real data, which of course carries its own set of hidden risks regarding privacy and user consent. Let's pivot a bit for Section 4, the power of real data, also known as the new oil. You hear it all the time, right? Data is the new oil. Well, your real, internal, organizational data, that is the refined fuel they're talking about. user interactions, social media activity, commerce activity, administrative records. It is the absolute best stuff to use to train or fine-tune an AI system to fit your specific needs. It's incredibly valuable. But tapping into this internal goldmine requires absolute, strict adherence to lawful access. Because this data is so closely tied to real people and your real business operations, this is exactly where ensuring your privacy requirements are met matters the absolute most. All right, finally, we arrive at Section 5, the confidentiality trap, dealing with internal AI threats.
Let's shift gears to a massive internal threat that happens after your AI is already deployed. Just imagine you launch this really helpful internal AI chatbot for your team. Step 1, an employee asks it a question. Step 2, the chatbot enthusiastically searches through your broad internal network for an answer. And step 3, it accidentally improperly discloses highly sensitive, confidential data to an employee who absolutely does not have the clearance to see it. Believe it or not, it is incredibly common for companies to have their chatbots accidentally leak internal salaries, HR records, or even trade secrets simply because the AI's access levels weren't properly restricted based on who was asking the question.
So how do we avoid stepping right into that trap? You need a few non-negotiable safeguards. First, limit access. If the AI doesn't genuinely need to know it, do not let it see it. Second, practice data minimalism with your AI providers. Please don't hand over your entire unredacted database just for routine maintenance. Share only what is strictly necessary. Third, actively consult your cybersecurity teams and external experts before you hit deploy. And finally, put strict access safeguards in place so you don't inadvertently violate your own trade secret obligations. I want to leave you with one last pretty provocative thought to take back to your teams. If your AI system was audited today, would you know exactly what data it's hiding? Do you know for sure if there are illegal books baked into its training foundation, or if it has unrestricted access to your company's most guarded secrets? Remember, true AI innovation doesn't just come from deploying powerful algorithms. It requires vigilant, ongoing data governance. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and until next time, keep asking the hard questions about your data.